Hi kids. What we're going to do today in this video is give you a quick review of the coordinate plane and how to find area on the coordinate plane. You're going to want to take notes, and you're going to want to take out a piece of graph paper or get a piece of graph paper as you do this. So pause the video, get yourself set up, ready to go, and when you're ready, start the video up again. Alrighty, here we go. First piece of information you should record and write down when you're finding the area of shapes on a coordinate plane is to decompose the shape into easier to use shapes, such as squares, rectangles, and triangles. Alright, and this should be a familiar concept to you at this point if you're watching this video. If not, well then it's a totally new concept and you'll discover what we're talking about. The next thing you should record or remember is to determine the area for each shape that you've created when you decompose the larger shape. Alright, so that's an important piece of information. The third thing you should remember is to add all your shapes to get a total. Alright, so what you're going to do is you're going to decompose the larger shape or shapes into smaller, easier to use shapes. Determine the area for each shape, and then once you have each of those smaller shapes, you're going to add those areas together to get a total. Alright? Now, a couple things to remember. There's two ways you can find area on a coordinate plane. Oftentimes you can just count individual squares, or you can use the following formulas for finding the area of rectangles and triangles. Okay? And we've gone over these a number of times, but we'll go over them again real quick. If you need to find the area for a rectangle, you multiply the length times the width. If you need to find the area for a triangle, you would multiply 1/2 the base times the height. And a quick review, okay, to find the area of this rectangle, we would multiply length times the width, so we do 4 times 8, and that will give us 32 square centimeters. To find the area of this right triangle, we would multiply 1/2 times the base times the height. So if you want to see the formula in action, it would look like this. 4 is the base, and 8 is the height. And I like to say 1/2 of 4, because the word of means multiplying. So 1/2 of 4 is 2. 2 times 8 equals 16. So this triangle has an area of 16 square centimeters, which makes sense if you consider it is half of a rectangle that would have similar lengths and widths, only these are bases and heights. Okay? And then again, this square right here would be a square, so all the sides are congruent, so you would have 6 times 6 to get 36. This triangle would have a base of 6 and a height of 6, so you could do 1/2 of, or 1/2 times the base times the height. 1/2 of 6 is 3 times 6, so you would have 18 square centimeters in there. And again, that makes sense because when you look at this triangle, it is half of a square. And understanding that triangles are half of a rectangle is oftentimes the key to understanding how you find the area of a triangle. What we're going to do now is I'm going to review with you how you would find area on a coordinate plane. Okay? Now, when you look at this shape, you can see that we have parts in the quadrant 1, quadrant 2, 3, and 4. Okay? Now, in order to find the area in this shape, you could easily begin counting every individual square and then combining halves and thirds and all that. But one of the things that I always recommend with kids is if you want to find the area of this whole shape, first highlight or draw line segments on your coordinate plane. Okay? So the first thing that I always like to do is to highlight your X and Y axis. Okay? So you highlight those, and then you can kind of like separate your coordinate plane into easier to use and easier to work with amounts. Okay? So now we can see we have a shape here and a shape in here if we use the X and Y axis as sides. Alright? Now again, you could figure out the area of this shape by counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and some kids like to put marks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay? And you could say, well, now we know that we have 18 in there. Plus, this little part right here is a half. Okay? So we could say that this is 18 and a half square centimeters. Okay? Now, you could do it another way. You could decompose it into shapes you're familiar with. So, you know, if you look at this, right here is a rectangle. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would make that 15. Okay, square centimeters. And then you have a small rectangle right here. 1, 2 square centimeters. And then we have a square right here, and that's 1 square centimeter. Okay, and then we know this is a half. So you could have decomposed it into smaller, easier shapes to work with. 15 plus 2 is 17, plus 1 is 18, plus a half is 18 and 5/10. All right? So then you'd come over to quadrant 2. And again, you could look at quadrant 2 and say, okay, what are some shapes I can decompose it into? I would recommend making the triangles first. Okay? And then you can find your rectangles easier. Now I would just simply draw a rectangle on this lower part and have a rectangle up there as well, which happens to be a square. Again, you could count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all of those, or you could just simply decompose it into smaller shapes. And in this case, I'd have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, so that's 21 square centimeters. And then I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, right in here, these are also considered square units. So we'd have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'd have 16 right there as well. Now we have this triangle over there. Okay? Now the best way to figure out the area of this triangle is just say to yourself, well, you know what? This triangle is half of this rectangle. Okay? So if you have a rectangle and you go from diagonal to diagonal, you get half of it. So this rectangle has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in it. Okay? So if we have 12 full squares in the rectangle, but we only have half of that in the shape of a triangle, we know that the triangle is going to have half of 12, which would be 6. So now you can add these amounts up, and you could add 6 to 16 and get 22. 22 plus 21 is going to give us 43. Okay? And again, if you have a calculator, there's no reason you can't use it and simply take and add 16 plus 21 plus 6 equals 24, okay, plus 16 equals, wait a minute, I got all messed up. See, I used a calculator, I got myself messed up. Let's clear that out there. 21, there we go, plus 6 plus 16 equals 43. There we go. See, calculator's not always going to save you. All right? So, anyways, now we know that the area of the shape in quadrant 2 is going to be 43 square centimeters. Okay? And then we go on to Quadrant 3. So Quadrant 3, the shape in Quadrant 3 formed by the axes and the outline of the shape is a rectangle. And we know that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. So we have 21 square units in there as well. Okay, so Quadrant 3, we have an area of 21 square centimeters. Then we come over here to Quadrant 4 and decompose it into shapes we can work with. What I like to do, again, is triangles. Well, this is going to be one big long triangle right here. So I have this triangle right there, and then I have this triangle right here. Okay? Well, this triangle right here is, it's not a very good triangle, half of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, half of this rectangle. Okay? So half of that rectangle is going to be your area for that long triangle. So we have this long triangle right here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 full squares as a rectangle, so it's going to be half of that, and it's going to be 3. This triangle is actually half of this rectangle. So this rectangle is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That means that the triangle is going to be 3. And then in here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 square units. Add those together, and we get 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 6 is 12. So we end up with 12 square centimeters. Okay? Now, what that means is you can now add those all together and come up with a total area for the shape. So I'm going to go nice and slow on my calculator because it doesn't respawn real fast and I get a wrong answer. And first I'm going to add Quadrant 1, 18 plus 5. Or I'm sorry, 18 and plus the 5 tenths of a centimeter. So 18 and 5 tenths plus 43 plus 21 plus 12 gives us a total area of 94.5 square centimeters for the whole shape. 94.5 square centimeters for the whole shape. All right? And that's how you decompose a shape. Now what I'd like you to do is I would like you to do one on your own. Okay, time for you to practice the skill. On a piece of graph paper, draw the shape. You need to include both the x and y axis. Determine the area of the shape formed in each quadrant. Determine a total area for the whole shape. So what you're going to do is take your graph paper, draw the x and y axis, then draw the shape. Draw it very carefully, okay, so you get the right answer. All right, here we go. There is, here is the shape that you're going to do. Okay, pause the video now and draw that shape and figure out the area for it. All right? Okay, here we go. Let's see how you did with this shape. All right? Now, there's a couple ways you could divide this shape. All right? Obviously, the first thing you should do is highlight the x and y axis to help you. Okay? Highlight the x and y axis to help you. The next thing that you're going to want to do is start with Quadrant 1. Well, if you decompose Quadrant 1 into shapes, you'll see that you have a rectangle here and a rectangle there. So in this case, you just figure out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. You have a 7 by 4 rectangle. 7 times 4 is 28. Okay? This little rectangle, again, you don't even have to do any math. You can see that it's 6 square units. Okay? So if you take 28 and you add 6 to it, you will get an area of 34 square centimeters. Okay? Next, you come over to Quadrant 2. Now, when I look at Quadrant 2, I see that we have a triangle right here, okay, and I have a rectangle right here. So, you could count your squares. You know, it's easy enough in this one. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or we could do 5 times 2, but either way, it's 10 square units. And then, of course, this is our triangle, and we could multiply the base times height, and then divide by 2, or half the base times the height. But remember, what we're looking at here is we're looking at half of this overall rectangle. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 square units in that big rectangle. We have half of it, so what that means is that half of 25 is going to be 12.5. Okay? So that's how we come up with our area for that. And so now our whole area for this quadrant would be 12.5 plus 10, which would be 22 and 5/10 square centimeters. All right? Go into Quadrant 3. Well, Quadrant 3 is easy. It's just a rectangle, and we have 5 by 3, which means we have 15 in there, so we have 15 square centimeters. Okay? And then over here in Quadrant 4, you can see that we can decompose this into a long rectangle and one long triangle. And when we look at the area of this one, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have 7 square units in there. And then down here, we know that this is going to be part of a bigger rectangle. Okay? So this triangle is half of a rectangle, and the area of the rectangle is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, which means that that's 7 square centimeters also. So if we add those together, we get 14 square centimeters. And now we're going to figure out the overall area. And just to be quick about it, I'm going to add it with a calculator. I'm going to take 34 plus 22.5 square centimeters plus 15 plus 14, and our total is going to be 85 and 5/10 square centimeters for that shape. Okay.